You know that feeling when you're trying to piece together a puzzle? Just, too many pieces. We get it.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. Today, we're laser focused on, well, a field that's way more than just numbers on a board.
Right.
Careers in mathematics. Think less dusty chalkboard, you know? More like the engine room of innovation, the logic behind, well, pretty much everything.
Exactly. And we've got this source, Institute Research number 262, Careers in Mathematics. It's our blueprint, really.
Okay.
And what's immediately striking is just the sheer breadth of possibilities. We're not just talking teaching here.
Yeah.
We're talking about the minds that, power your GPS, the analysts predicting financial trends, even the unsung heroes optimizing supply chains.
Right. For massive organizations, it's a surprisingly diverse landscape.
It really is.
And our mission today is, well, to map out that landscape for you. We want to uncover some of those maybe unexpected applications, spark an idea perhaps for a career path you hadn't even considered. So to get your brain warmed up a bit, picture this. A farmer has a dog, a duck, and some corn. Needs to get them across a river.
The classic.
Yeah. But the boat only fits him and one other thing. Now, the dog can't be left alone with the duck, right? And the duck can't be left with the corn.
Okay. The constraints.
What's the minimum number of trips? Or consider this one. Someone looks at a picture and says, brothers and sisters I have none, but that man's father is my father's son, who's in the picture.
Interesting. Little logic puzzles?
Exactly. And if those kinds of puzzles, resonate with you, you might just have that underlying logical wiring for the careers we're about to dive into.
Okay, so let's unpack the foundation here. What is mathematics? At its core,
Good question.
it's really a language, a remarkably precise way of describing not just the quantity, but also the qualities.
Qualities of what?
Well, the curvature of a lens, for instance, or the structure of a network, and most importantly, the relationships between these things. It operates on a theoretical level, exploring abstract ideas, sure, but it's also profoundly practical. It underpins everything from, designing more fuel-efficient cars
Yeah.
to understanding how social networks connect.
And often the really exciting stuff happens right where those two sides, the theoretical and applied, intersect.
Exactly.
And this isn't some, recent invention. Our source points out that mathematics is arguably humanity's first science.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
It's been woven into the fabric of how we understand the world since, well, forever, basically.
Think about early cultures. Numbers weren't just for, counting sheep. They often held deep religious, even mystical significance.
Right, that lingering unease some people feel around the number 13, triskaidekaphobia.
Yeah.
It's like a faint echo of ancient numerology. The belief that numbers held, hidden powers or meanings.
Wow. Okay.
And what's fascinating is how quickly these abstract concepts found really tangible uses. Early humans were using knots in ropes to track resources.
Simple but effective.
Yeah, and notches on bones to mark time. And think about the geometric patterns you see in ancient pottery or weaving. That shows a real intuitive grasp of spatial relationships and proportion.
Digging a bit deeper historically, the source mentions the Egyptians, maybe 5,000 years ago, developing a base 10 system, pretty much like what we use today.
And they were quite sophisticated with geometry too, calculating areas, volumes,
Yeah.
even approximating pi pretty well.
And then you had the Babylonians around 2000 BC advancing things with their base 60 system.
Base 60, which incredibly still influences how we measure time and angles today.
Isn't that wild?
It is, and they were exploring square numbers, compiling these impressive mathematical tables.
So this brings up an interesting point. How did these sort of practical methods evolve into the theoretical frameworks we know?
Well, the ancient Greeks were absolutely instrumental there. Pythagoras, around the 6th century BC. Now, the famous theorem probably predates him,
Okay.
but he's credited with the idea that all is number, this sense of fundamental mathematical order to the whole universe.
And it wasn't just numbers, right? Didn't he connect it to music?
He did. His work extended to understanding the mathematical basis of musical harmony. There's that legend, about him hearing blacksmith's hammers and noticing the resonant sounds, the intervals.
Right. And here's where it gets really compelling, I think. While Pythagoras was focused on whole numbers, his followers soon discovered, what, irrational numbers?
Exactly, which kind of challenged that initial neat worldview.
Yeah.
Then you have Euclid, 4th century BC. He systemized geometry through logical proofs in his big work, Elements.
Elements, yeah.
Still influential.
Hugely. But his work wasn't just shapes. He also explored music, optics, astronomy, all while working at the famous Library of Alexandria.
Incredible place.
Absolutely. And who can forget Archimedes, his famous Eureka
Yeah.
moment?
Not just a story.
Well, it demonstrated a fundamental principle of buoyancy, right? And gave a mathematical method for checking the purity of gold. Pretty clever.
Very clever. And around the same time, Ptolemy developed his geocentric model of the universe. Right, the Earth-centered one.
Yeah.
Mathematically intricate, very complex.
But ultimately wrong.
Ultimately wrong, yes. But it influenced astronomical thought for over 1,000 years before Copernicus came along.
It's just amazing to see these parallel developments happening across the globe, too.
Yeah, it wasn't just the Greeks.
No. In China, around the same sort of era, Liu Hu independently figured out the Pythagorean theorem and got a remarkably accurate approximation of pi.
Incredible. And then, during the period Europe calls the Dark Ages, mathematics was actually flourishing in the Arab world.
Ah, right. Al-Khwarizmi?
Yes. In the 9th century A.D., he introduced the decimal system with place values and, crucially, zero.
Zero, yeah. Game changer.
Total game changer. And his writings gave us the terms algorithm, that step-by-step process so vital for computers today.
Algorithm, yeah.
And algebra, the branch dealing with symbols and rules for manipulating them.
So connecting this to the broader historical picture, the Renaissance in Europe, math became vital for navigation, right, as global exploration took off.
Absolutely. And that mathematical underpinning then enabled Copernicus to propose his heliocentric, sun-centered model. A huge shift.
Massive shifts. Then the 17th century, just an explosion of innovation. You've got Descartes developing analytical geometry.
Which is basically using coordinates to link algebra and geometry.
Yeah.
Foundational for computer graphics, tons of engineering.
Right, and Fermat laying groundwork for modern number theory, including his famously tricky last theorem.
Oh, yeah, that took a while to solve.
Just a bit. And of course, Newton and Leibniz independently developing calculus.
The mathematics of change. It's essential for physics, engineering, economics, countless fields.
So the 18th century saw things expand further, the Bernoulli family, Euler, Lagrange, really building on calculus.
Exactly, expanding its power and applications enormously. Then, the 19th century, math becomes more formalized in universities.
Yeah.
Figures like Cauchy and Dedekind giving rigorous definitions for real numbers.
Getting precise.
Very precise. And Boole developing Boolean logic.
True false. The basis for all computers.
Pretty much. That system of true-false values underpins all computer operations, database searches, everything digital.
What's really insightful here, I think, is how these, sometimes really abstract mathematical ideas end up having incredibly practical uses, maybe decades or even centuries later.
That's a key theme. Think about Charles Babbage in the 19th century. He conceived the first mechanical computer, the analytical engine.
Ahead of his time.
Way ahead. And Ada Lovelace, recognizing its potential beyond just crunching numbers, is seen as the first computer programmer.
Amazing. And the 20th century brought even more profound shifts. Andrew Wiles finally proving Fermat's last theorem.
After centuries.
And Einstein's theory of relativity just completely reshaping our understanding of space, time, gravity, all through complex mathematical frameworks.
Right. It really shows the power of mathematical thought to revolutionize science.
Which brings us pretty much to the present day. Our source really emphasizes that mathematics is still this central engine driving technological progress.
Absolutely. From the algorithms in our smartphones, the complex models for climate science, the stats used in medical research, mathematics is just indispensable.
Okay, so with this incredibly rich history as a backdrop, let's talk about where people with math skills actually work today.
Right. The stereotypical image, the lone mathematician scribbling equations. That's only a tiny part of the story.
Just a part.
You find mathematicians in traditional settings, sure, offices, classrooms, but increasingly the flexibility of telecommuting means they can work from almost anywhere.
Which has its pluses and minuses, I guess.
Definitely. Big advantages for work-life balance, but it demands strong self-discipline too.
And teaching, as we mentioned, that's a vital direct application from inspiring kids in, grades 6 through 12?
Yeah, middle school, high school, all the way up to shaping the next generation at community colleges and universities.
And in higher ed, it's not just teaching, right? It's often curriculum development and for many jobs, doing original research.
Exactly. Pushing the boundaries of mathematical knowledge. It's about sharing the beauty and power of math, but also contributing to its ongoing story.
What's particularly interesting, though, is the huge demand for mathematical thinkers in the private sector.
Oh, absolutely. Consider roles like computer engineers.
Yeah.
They rely heavily on logic, discrete math, to design and optimize hardware, software,
Okay.
and systems analysts. They use mathematical modeling to understand and improve complex business systems, for example.
And these roles often involve teamwork, collaboration.
Very much so. And the ability to communicate technical stuff to people from different backgrounds is key.
Great.
You also have private consultants bringing in specialized math expertise to different industries. That often involves travel.
Right. Even in fields you might not expect, like biological science, mathematicians in labs.
Increasingly, yes.
Yeah.
Applying statistical modeling, computational techniques to analyze complex biological data. Understanding how a virus spreads, for instance, that relies heavily on mathematical epidemiology.
Fascinating. Okay, let's get into some specifics then. Some typical career paths for people with a strong math background. Teaching, we've covered.
A cornerstone, yeah. And the source highlights the need for educators who can not only understand the concepts, but communicate them effectively, adapt to different learners.
Crucial skills. Then another major area is statistics.
Statisticians, they're basically the detectives of data.
Detectives, I like that.
They design studies to make sure the data collected is meaningful, representative that's key for drawing valid conclusions. They analyze trends, predict outcomes.
They even do destructive testing sometimes, like in quality control.
Yeah, figuring out the lifespan of a product by testing some to failure using statistics to generalize. The job titles vary a lot, though.
How so?
You might find econometricians looking at economic data, biostatisticians in healthcare, epidemiologists tracking diseases. But the core skill is understanding probability and statistical inference, how to get reliable answers from uncertain data.
Makes sense. Then you have actuaries.
The financial forecasters. They use sophisticated mathematical models to assess and manage risk, mostly in insurance, finance, pensions.
So heavy on probability and stats.
Definitely essential. But our source really emphasizes that actuaries also need to explain their complex analyses in ways non-mathematicians get.
Right, communication again, business sense too.
Critical. There's a nice anecdote in the source about an actuary who enjoys sort of demystifying risk calculations for clients, explaining the probabilities in everyday terms.
Helping people understand their own risks. Okay, what about operations research analysts?
Or analysts. They take a different but related tack. They focus on applying mathematical and analytical methods to optimize complex systems, solve practical problems.
Optimize systems like
Yeah.
logistics.
Exactly. The field actually has roots in military logistics during World War II, using math modeling to allocate resources better.
Wow, so what do they do today?
They work across all sorts of sectors, helping organizations make better decisions, supply chain management, airline scheduling, resource allocation, you name it.
So they need modeling skills and presentation skills.
Both. Developing the mathematical models, but also communicating the findings through technical reports and oral presentations. A key tool they often use is linear programming.
Linear programming.
Yeah, it's a method for finding the best outcome, like maximum profit or minimum cost in a mathematical model where the relationships are linear.
Got it. And, of course, we can't forget computer programmers.
Absolutely not. The architects, the builders of the digital world, translating logical steps into code computers execute.
It's a huge field, application developers, systems programmers.
Right. And while it might not always seem explicitly mathematical on the surface, the underlying logic, the problem-solving skills you hone through math training, they're invaluable for designing efficient, robust software. Understanding discrete math, for example, is fundamental for efficient algorithms and data structures.
Right, the building blocks.
Exactly. And then there's the broader category: computer systems analysts, engineers, scientists.
What's their role, generally?
They're responsible for making sure an organization's whole tech infrastructure works for its needs. Planning, designing, implementing hardware and software systems.
So they're like the bridge between the tech and the users.
Often, yes. A key part of their job is understanding not just the technology itself, but also its mathematical underpinnings and limitations. Like knowing the computational complexity of an algorithm is crucial for designing efficient systems.
Okay. Beyond these core areas, the source lists a whole bunch of other possibilities, too.
Yeah, things like accountant, cryptographer.
Where number theory and abstract algebra would be key.
Definitely. Economist, huge reliance on statistical modeling, econometrics, financial analysts using math models for investment, risk management, engineer, obviously, research scientist across various fields.
Technical specialist, consultant.
The list goes on. It's worth noting, though, something the source points out. While the federal government does hire people with the job title mathematician, many of the most sought-after, most impactful roles require a blend. Mathematical thinking plus expertise in another field, Interdisciplinary skills are really valuable.
That makes sense. So what are the essential skills and qualities that really pave the way for success in these diverse mathematical careers?
Well, problem solving is obviously number one. But it's not just about robotically applying formulas.
No.
It involves creative thinking, logical thinking, flexibility, being able to approach problems from different angles, adapt your methods, and recognizing how math principles apply across seemingly unrelated fields. That's a big one.
The source even mentions an element of art in theoretical math.
Yeah, that moment of seeing an elegant pattern, a beautiful structure in something abstract, can be quite aesthetic,
And surprisingly, a sense of humor mentions Galileo.
apparently. But persistence is absolutely key. Whether you're grinding away, calculating pi to more decimal places,
Which takes forever.
or grappling with a problem like Fermat's last theorem, which baffled people for centuries, you need grit.
But maybe one of the most critical skills, and sometimes maybe underestimated, communication.
Hugely important.
Hmm.
Being able to clearly explain complex mathematical ideas, written reports, oral presentations, it's essential for teamwork, for explaining your work to non-technical people, for getting ahead in your career.
There's a great quote in the source, something like, mathematicians don't always know the answers.
But they know the right questions to ask, and they know when the questions being asked are wrong.
Yeah.
That captures it well.
And another one. I might not know where they are now, but I can tell you which way they went when they left.
Ah, yeah, highlighting that power of logical deduction. It's central to mathematical thinking.
It's also about seeing the connections, right, between math and other disciplines.
Absolutely. The source gives fascinating examples. Using stats to analyze literary styles, maybe attribute anonymous works,
Like Shakespeare.
potentially. Or developing mathematical models to understand population dynamics, or even how social networks evolve. That interdisciplinary view is increasingly valuable.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. What are the really appealing aspects of a math-related career? What makes it attractive?
Well, the source highlights that, generally speaking, these fields pay well, particularly in the private sector.
Good salaries and benefits.
Usually competitive benefits packages too, yeah.
Mhm.
Health insurance, retirement plans, often quite good.
And the skills themselves, they're transferable.
Incredibly transferable. That mathematical way of thinking opens doors to a wide range of career paths, lots of opportunities for advancement as you gain experience.
Plus, location flexibility. You mentioned telecommuting earlier.
Right. The rise of remote work, especially in tech-related roles, offers significant flexibility. You're not necessarily tied to one city.
And you get to be involved in potentially some really exciting technological advancements.
Definitely. And collaborate with bright, like-minded people, often in international teams, which can be very stimulating.
And the source points out that a math foundation doesn't have to box you in. You can explore diverse interests.
Exactly. You can often apply your skills in unexpected ways throughout your career. Ultimately, you're building this really valuable, lasting body of knowledge and expertise.
Okay, but we need a balanced view. What about the downsides? Potential challenges.
Sure. The source does mention the physical strain from spending long hours at computer. Eye strain, muscle strain, carpal tunnel.
Ergonomics are important then.
Very important.
Eh.
Also, in academia, the job market has become more competitive. More PhDs vying for limited tenure track spots.
So that might mean being willing to relocate and needing to publish research.
Often, yes. A strong commitment to ongoing research and publication is usually necessary for academic careers.
And while some might picture mathematicians working alone,
The reality, as the source says, is that most math fields involve a lot of interaction with others. Teamwork, interpersonal skills are crucial. You need flexibility.
external factors too, like funding for public education,
Yeah.
corporate restructuring.
Yeah, those can definitely impact career paths. Funding challenges in schools, downsizing in companies, those are realities.
And finally, the need for lifelong learning, keeping up with tech changes.
Absolutely essential. The field evolves rapidly. You have to keep learning and adapting.
Okay, so how does someone actually get onto one of these career paths, education-wise?
Well, the source really underscores how important formal education is today. It starts in high school, really. A strong foundation in algebra, ideally pre-calculus.
Getting those fundamentals right,
Yeah.
and college entrance exams like the ACT.
Yep, those play a role in university admissions. Then typically, you're looking at a 4-year Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics.
What does that usually involve besides math?
It's usually pretty broad. You'll likely take courses in arts, humanities, other sciences, maybe a foreign language, definitely English and speech or communications.
Communication again.
Always important. Plus computer skills. And then the core math courses, the calculus sequence, linear algebra.
Which is key for data science, machine learning.
Absolutely. Mathematical theory, statistics, modeling, discrete structures, the math of countable things, vital for computer science. Upper division courses build on those.
And the source mentions it might take longer than 4 years sometimes.
It can, yeah. Depending on the program depth, individual pace.
Yeah.
Financial aid options are obviously important to explore too.
Right. What about beyond the bachelor's? Master's degrees.
Usually necessary if you're aiming for academia or more research-intensive roles in industry. Typically takes about 2 extra years. Often involves opportunities as a teaching or research assistant, which helps financially.
And for top-level research or university teaching, the PhD.
That's generally the standard. Doctor of Philosophy. Can take another 4 to 6 years beyond the master's. Involves really deep, original research in a specialized area. The source lists quite a few potential PhD specializations, showing how diverse math research is now.
Okay, let's talk money, earning potential. What does the source say?
Generally, private industry tends to offer higher starting salaries compared to academic positions.
But the federal government offers a good mix, salary and benefits.
Often, yes. It's usually a solid option. For college and university teaching, salaries vary a lot. Depends on the type of institution, your education level, experience.
And for bachelor's degree holders starting out, any ballpark figures?
The source gives median earnings around $40,000 for fields like statistics and actuarial science. Computer programmers might start slightly higher, maybe around $45,000.
But these are just starting points, right? And they vary.
Oh, hugely, based on location, specific experience, exact education level, company size, lots of factors.
Right.
But while starting salaries are in that range, the potential for significant growth with experience and specialization, especially in high-demand areas.
Like data science or AI.
Exactly. That potential is substantial. Experienced pros in some roles can earn well over $100,000, sometimes much more.
Okay, so where are the actual opportunities? Where should people look?
Well, as we said, pure math research jobs in academia can be competitive. But the source points out that many roles needing strong math skills won't have mathematician in the job title.
Like systems analysts.
That's a prime example. Mathematical thinking is crucial there. The federal government is a big employer. Agencies like the NSA,
National Security Agency, cryptography.
right, and the Department of Commerce's NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. They even list critical shortage occupations that often include mathematical fields they're actively recruiting.
And growing areas. You mentioned data science.
Definitely. Math-based computer science careers are huge. Data scientists, machine learning engineers needing strong linear algebra, stats, calculus. Operations research analysts are also in demand, though advanced degrees are often preferred there.
Computer programmers. Still strong demand.
Consistent demand, yes. But it's worth noting, as the source does, that contract work without benefits is also pretty common in programming, something to be aware of.
So for someone interested, what are the next steps? How do they get started exploring?
Our source strongly encourages exploring resources, like the American Mathematical Society's website, ams.org. They have a whole section on undergraduate opportunities.
Okay, ams.org. Other professional organizations too.
Yes, several are listed in the document. Getting involved in things like math clubs, chess clubs, anything that fosters logical, analytical thinking that helps too.
Extracurriculars matter.
They can, and talking to school counselors is crucial. About college applications, different programs, even seeking out job shadowing opportunities in math-related fields can give you invaluable firsthand insights.
See what it's actually like day to day.
Exactly. The source also provides a helpful list of specific websites and organizations for further exploration. Worth checking out.
Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it feels really clear that a background in mathematics, it unlocks this surprisingly wide, really impactful array of career paths.
It really does. It's fundamentally about developing a powerful toolkit, for logical thinking, for problem solving. And those skills are just increasingly valuable everywhere.
Absolutely. Mathematical thinking isn't just confined to one job description. It's this versatile, increasingly essential asset in our, well, complex and data-driven world.
Yeah, well put. Which maybe leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener.
Okay.
Consider a problem you encounter in your own daily life. Could be anything optimizing your commute, understanding a news report that uses statistics. How might a mathematical perspective offer a new way to think about it?
Or maybe just reflect on which part of our discussion today surprised you the most, and perhaps take some time, explore some of those resources we mentioned.
Yeah, because the future is, well, it's undeniably being built on mathematical foundations.
It certainly seems that way. Thanks for diving deep with us today.